Both of these are Android compact flagships. Both squeeze massive batteries inside, and both are competing to be the best compact Android smartphone you can buy in 2026. However, there's one provision. One of these phones you can't actually buy, not in Europe, not in the UK, unless you can import it. That's the only way you can get your hands on it. And today we're going to review the OnePlus 15T versus the Xiaomi 17 to answer the question, what's the best compact Android flagship you can buy right now? On the design front, it's hard to separate the two because the 15T gets a 6.32-inch display, 6.3 on the 17. So they're basically competing in the exact same way. On the design and build front though, again, similarities. The 15T is heavier and somewhat thicker than the 17. Not that you're ever going to notice. Both have really nice matte finishes on the rear, but there's a couple things. The green here on the 17 is actually super nice. I think it's called emerald green. Looks really good. But this mocha cocoa color on the 15T is stunning. In fact, the build and feel is almost exactly the same as the flagship 15, which is also pretty great. The main thing that separates these two is down to durability. IP68 for the 17, and the 15T gets IP69K as well, which means high pressure water resistance on here with high heat as well. This can handle. Overall, I think that extra color and feel and durability of the 15T makes it the winner in this category. Both these phones have stunning OLED displays, both at LTPO panels, 165 Hz with 1.1mm borders on the 15T, and then the 17 120 Hz and has excellent 90% plus screen to body ratio as well. In fact, when you compare the both, it's the 17 that gets you a better screen to body ratio. Both output really stunning quality when you're watching back content on here, and you're going to get great color reproduction, and even at 100% brightness, there is no washout here. Both of these phones will also support Netflix's Widevine L1, so HD and 4K playback is supported on both. And then audio output, stereo speakers on both. Let's break down a quick audio sample and let us know in the comment section what you think is better out of the 15T and the 17. On the rear, you get a completely different camera setup, and let's start off with the 17. You get three cameras here, 50 megapixel main with a Light Fusion 950 sensor, 50 megapixel 60mm floating telephoto lens with OIS, and a 50 megapixel ultra wide, all Leica Summilux glass as well, which is super interesting. The 15T gets two cameras, 50 megapixel main with a Sony IMX906 sensor and a 50 megapixel periscope telephoto at 3.5x optical zoom. No ultra wide here, none. And let's break down the comparison of both these phones in terms of its overall photo quality. First of all, they do stack up on the main lens. Both of those actually have very similar output in terms of images with a lot of detail and well-balanced colors, but it's the sharpness of the 15T and that extra detail that makes it stand out a little more versus 17. You can argue that the 15T is too sharp here, but really like the images here. And even if you pixel peep, it still retains all that extra information as well. The 15T also does better in terms of handling various bright lighting conditions, such as reflections, and manages to retain the detail, while the 17 does lose that extra bit of edge. On the telephoto front, again, the 15T does a better overall job in terms of processing images, even those that are a bit more complex, and details are just that bit sharper and nicely processed as well. The 15T doesn't have an ultra wide, but the 17 does, and it does produce good overall results with nicer detail and sharpness, and is really good here with really good color balance too. On the video front, 4K on the 17 produces nice natural looking video, whilst the 15T does have an extra layer of vibrancy, which may look overly saturated, but is not bad, but still not as good as the 17. Overall, the 15T is the better camera system here. but I do think it's down to your preference. If you like a really sharper image, go for the 15T. If you like a more natural look, then the 17 is not a bad chat. Let's break down the finer configurations of the spec. Both of these phones have a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, and its configuration both are 12 gig 256. There's no difference in terms of that front, but there is when you run these through 3D Mark's Lifestyle Extreme test, because what you deliver here is heavy throttling on both, and the 15T will actually achieve a higher loop score versus the 17, but when it comes to heat and battery management, they both again produce very similar results, which is really interesting. If you're a gamer, this is where things do get a little bit more interesting, because if you were to game on the 15T, you can actually use this at 165 FPS, and it will only achieve that on the 15T. On the 17, you'll only be able to achieve 120 FPS. But if you're just normal navigating around the actual phone itself, you will never actually see on the 15T it achieves 165 Hz, because it's just primarily for gaming and specific apps. But in terms of gaming, let's talk about those. Let's show you a quick example of both, how they both run and sound playing Call of Duty Mobile.
Target's in sight. Enemy down. Kill confirmed.
On the OS front, it's really hard to break these down. I'm going to give a little bit away because the 15T is running Chinese ROM versus the Xiaomi 17's global ROM. Both of these work really well. On the 15T, you've got Android 16, ColorOS, and then the HyperOS 3 Android 16 on the 17. Both navigate and menus really well. Opening and closing apps is super fast. There's nothing here that will cause you any concerns. Both work flawlessly. In fact, the only thing that I think is interesting is the AI features on both. The Xiaomi 17 probably has a little bit more of a refined AI OS implementation versus the 15T, but both do a really good job. For example, AI Eraser works really well on both devices, but we just wanted to touch on those. There isn't a consideration in this comparison. On the battery front, it's a super interesting tale of two tapes, because the 17 will get you a 6,330 mAh battery with 100 watts of wire charging, and the 15T 7,300 mAh with 100 watts of wire charging. Both do 50 watts of wireless charging as well. But there is a significant difference between both, because if you're using both of these phones daily at the same time, like we did for this particular test, you'll find that the 15T will actually last you full 2 days comfortably, whilst the 17 will stretch into that second day, but probably won't last the whole amount, which is the biggest variance between the two. And I would think as well, overall, the 15T does a better job of managing its battery and its workload versus the 17, which naturally, even unused, does run about 5 degrees hotter than the 15T, which can impact the overall battery performance. Both of these though will be 8 hours plus screen on time a day, and technically speaking, if you manage it, both will easily get you 2 days with the battery. But if you're looking for the sole winner, it's the 15T. So which of these is the better phone? For our UK followers and European users, I would love to say it's the 17, but it's not. This does have really great AI features, stunning display, and a premium build with very capable cameras. But the 15T also has all of that, but has better battery, a better overall main and telephoto output, personally, I would say, and it's the better overall phone personally to use on a daily basis. The shame is you can't actually buy this unless you import this in from China, which is a huge shame. But personally, if you're going to compromise those little things, then this is definitely worth getting. But we want you to let us know in the comment section below if you found this review helpful, and if you did, let us know below your thoughts on the 15T as being the best Android compact flagship in 2026. Would you buy one and compromise, or would you go for the 17 because you know what you're going to get and you're going to get all the updates without the compromises? Let us know in the comment section below, and be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Until next one, as always, we out.